Thomas Paine, Thomas Paine, Thomas Paine, Sam Adams, Sam Adams, Sam Adams, Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Franklin. These men spoke up for what they thought was right. From their courage came such documents as the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States. From their willingness to speak what was sometimes unpopular but right, we enjoy such liberties as freedom of speech, the right to keep and bear arms, and freedom of religion. There are those who still wish to oppress our freedoms, and there are still patriots willing to stand up and defend life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Men like Zeb Bell, who honor our founding fathers and what they stood for. It's now time for Zeb at the ranch, speaking up and defending your freedoms. Brought to you by Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers and all of the other great advertisers on the program. And now, Zeb Bell.
Think about this. A gun is like a parachute. If you need one and don't have one, you'll probably never need one ever again. Good morning, everybody. Here comes Kate Smith and God Bless America, followed by a Patriot with our Pledge of Allegiance on a Tuesday, October 7th. Good morning, good morning. Thank you very much, Kate Smith, and God bless America. What a pretty morning outside this morning. Good morning, I'm Zeb Bell, Zeb at the Ranch, and our major sponsor, your Magic Valley, Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you, along with some of our great advertisers, including Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More at 459 Overland in Burley, and our friends at Western Waste Services, always at your disposal. Get on the route service today. Call them at 734-6969. And right now, I've got your Christmas present.
You do?
Yes.
It's not even Christmas yet.
I'm ahead of the game, sweet cheeks.
At least somebody is. I started working on a conglomerate of Christmas presents.
Oh, no, Deanne is the one to thank.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, Deanne, thank you.
She absolutely had a great idea. I mean, it was a stunning idea, and so that's what we did.
And are you going to give me a hint, a clue, or are you going to make me wait in anticipation until Christmas?
See, you've got roughly, about 81 days?
Is that how long it is?
Suffer, lady, suffer. Okay.
All right.
Do we have a pledger?
It could be me, you, or Michael.
I always like the way you do it, so go ahead.
Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Well
done. Here we go now with the weather forecast with MichaelRogersWeather.com, brought to everybody by Cheney Flooring and Home Design, 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley. Look for the blue door. Hey, listen, they're closed on Mondays and Sundays. Give them a little time off. Man, they're busy all the time. And they're putting out new Halloween and Christmas decorations. And stop in and see all the shipments of repurposed dressers that are going to be in the store at Cheney Flooring and Home Design, 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley, 678-6945. And right now, here is Michael Rogers.
No change from the weather yesterday for today, and the weather for today exactly will be the same for tomorrow. Where am I going with this? It's going to be nice and sunny today. Good morning, everybody. 75 for the high, 53 for the overnight low. I am keeping an eye on a storm, and right now the possibility of anything coming out of it is further on down the line as far as we seeing anything. But other than that, it's going to be a nice day for today. It's going to be a nice evening, and it's definitely going to be a nice day tomorrow. Enjoy the weather, extreme weather you got.
There you go. Greatest weatherman in the world, MichaelRogersWeather.com, and it's brought to you by Cheney Flooring and Home Design. Wonderful people that can really help dress up your home. 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley, 678-6945. Look for the blue door. Hey, by the way, I also want to remind everybody that Thursday is sale day at the Burley Livestock Commission Company, Burley Sale Yard, 1100 Occidental Avenue in Burley. The number to call, 678 678-9411. Now listen, they've had some ripping good sales as of late, so please get a hold of them for consignments. Like I said, 678-9411, or you can call Merv May, Cade Rogge, or Lance Udy. Give all three of them a call. They'd love to help you. This is the sale that works for you. Burley Livestock Commission Company, you better believe it. Occidental Avenue, 1100 to be exact. And the number again, 678-9411. Sale on Thursdays at 10:30. All right, calls are welcome and appreciated. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Got some birthday wishes today. I noticed that, and Gina had this on the news just prior to my coming on this morning with Brock, that there's no school again at Oakley Elementary because of a lack of water. Let me just say this. There is a birthday girl today that water surrounds her, and there wouldn't be a water problem if she was over there, and that's Carlene Bunn. Carlene, the water lady, is having a birthday today, and we wish her a very happy birthday. Caller, I'll be right there. Don't forget Daryl's Cleaners. You know, they can restore items and help them look brand spanking new and last longer. I really want you to consider the fact that when somebody says, I'll just throw it away, no, don't do it. Stop in and see Kevin at Daryl's Cleaners, 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley. It might be able to be cleaned and restored. Please think about that first. Okay, you see Kevin first at Daryl's Cleaners, greatest cleaners in the universe, 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley. And we also want to acknowledge that I wouldn't be with all the information that I have if it weren't for SafeLink Internet, Idaho's #1 choice for wireless high-speed internet. Boy, I appreciate them. No contracts required, no credit checks, unlimited data. These guys and gals are good. 677-8000, the number to call. Do it. Just $19.95 starting. You better believe it. 677-8000, SafeLink Internet. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Yeah, when we first started Lunch Bunch, we all had to carry towels.
Well, we all looked like we'd been in a shower.
That's okay. She's still a good old girl.
Yes, she is. And, you know, if she'd have been born a couple thousand years ago, they'd have called her Moses.
She lives next to me. Let's be quiet about it, okay? Have a good one, guys.
All right, thanks, Al.
Happy birthday, Carly.
Callers, welcome. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Yeah, I'm going to talk to Gina about a little story I've got here. This is going to infuriate her as a Vandal fan, so stand by. Scott Gano Landscaping and Sprinkler Service, 336 South, 450 West of Paul. Number to call, and do call this number, 438-2485. Why should you? Because if you've got a sprinkler system, you know, we've got weather right now that's fantabulous, but it's going to turn cold, and you better make sure that those sprinkler lines are blown out before it does freeze and do a lot of damage. Call them. Please do it, 438-2485. And don't forget, they can prune your trees too. Fruit trees, ornamental shade trees, every kind of tree, stumps out of the ground. Absolutely, Gano Landscaping and Sprinkler Service, 438-2485. Gina, did you hear what happened with Western Michigan University?
Yes, they vandalized the vandals.
You know, I have no temper. I have no patience for people that destroy things.
Yeah.
You know, it's like going up in the hills and to a picnic area, and some clowns looking for a circus burned the picnic table. You know what I mean? They destroy things. I just don't understand it. And I say salute to Vandal Athletic Director Rob Spear for sending a bill to Western Michigan for cleanup and repair costs. However, I don't think the bill was enough. It should have been like a couple of grand for what they did to destroy the locker rooms. And why? Why would they want to come in there and destroy the locker rooms?
I have no idea. Not only did they destroy the locker rooms, but they destroyed destroyed trophy displays, and they stole some items with inside said trophy displays that really can't be replaced.
Yeah.
$500 is not going to cover that. So I do commend Rob Spear for sending Western Michigan a bill. I do also commend Western Michigan and their athletic director for saying, you know what, we're going to take care of this. We so apologize. We're going to make sure that this never happens again. But I honestly think that they should be going through all of those players' personal belongings and getting back what belongs rightfully to the University of Idaho.
I have no argument with that whatsoever, but I'm going to go a step further on this.
Okay.
I'm going to go a step further and point my finger at the coaching staff, and here's why. When you are basically on the schedule to go as a visitor to another locker room, I remember vividly that whether it was our football coach or whether it was our basketball coach in high school, that when we got all ready to go, everybody went out in the hallway and started heading for the bus, and the coaching staff went back in to make sure the locker room was acceptable and no damage was done.
Ours did as well. You know, every time that we had an away game, they would make sure that we left the locker room in the same condition they found it in. And, of course, you know, same with the home games. They would always go and inspect the visiting team and you know, the locker room that they used. And I really don't think, and I honestly agree with you, that the coaching staff needs to be held responsible for this, because they're the ones that are supposed to be in charge of those boys and saying, hey, you know what, you guys have to treat, you know, this property with respect just like it is your own.
Well, and the thing is, the bill was sent to the athletic department, and I personally think that, you know, the guy opens it up, he gets it on his desk from the secretary, there's a $500 bill from the University of Idaho for vandalized property, etc., and the guy's going, what happened here? You know, he's sitting back there at the campus, and all of a sudden he gets a bill for $500. I totally agree with you that athletic director should march right down to the coach's office and demand an accounting as to why they, the managers of the football team and the assistant coaches, didn't notice the damage, acknowledge the damage, and go to him and tell him about the damage.
Well, they were probably in the locker room when, you know, in the entryway, because where this, you know, happened, obviously it's not just in the locker room, because there's a foyer that goes in, and that's where all of the trophy displays are, and those were broken and literally vandalized. And I'm not trying to make joke of this, but seriously, I honestly think that all of those players involved need to have a couple games, you know, taken off the roster, that they should not be allowed to play.
I remember vividly, we had a star player on our basketball team, and I'm not going to mention his name on the radio. He's still alive and well, and quite frankly, him and I are pretty good friends. And I remember that he had a penchant for being a slob, and quite frankly, he would orange peelings, he'd leave them laying on the floor, banana peels, didn't make any difference to him. And you know, our coach, one time I remember we were playing over at Monroe, and after the game was over, this particular player went in and he just threw stuff on the floor, made a mess of everything. And our coach, hats off to Winiarski, Coach Winiarski. I know I'm not making that name up. You can't make that name up. He just said, okay, we'll wait out in the bus while you clean the entire locker room.
And did he?
Oh, boy.
And
I hope to shout.
Did the coach go in there and reinspect?
Yep, absolutely. And I'll tell you what, those were the days, and I'll still go back and say the way things were are the way things ought to be.
And I completely agree. And honestly, you know, I think that more should be done as far as reparations are concerned by Western Michigan to the University of Idaho for the damage that was done. I honestly think that the players involved, if an investigation is ever done, that the players involved need to be penalized.
Yeah.
They honestly do. They need to go through a probationary period. Look, if you have no respect for a team's locker room that you're visiting, then what is to say that another team isn't going to come in and do the same thing to you?
Yeah, and here's the thing. It was really a psychological treatment to the rest of the team back there when this happened. It was a cold February night. We're sitting in a bus in the school parking lot. All of us want to get home, and as especially we were cold because we got our butts kicked and we had lost, and the star of the team is pulled off the bus and told to go clean the locker room, and I mean it left an indelible impression in all of our minds that we better not do that kind of garbage and let it happen again.
And did it make an indelible impression on the star player that he never did that again?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, that wasn't the most indelible impression. His dad was a policeman.
Oh!
And I'm just going to let it go at that.
Yeah, I bet you he had a conversation with good old son.
Yeah, there was probably go sit in the chair here in the middle of the floor, son. We're going to shine a light on you, and you're going to see the light.
Yeah. So, I like I said, I do commend Athletic Director Rob Spear for sending them a bill and calling light to the situation, but I do think that the Western Michigan needs to step up to the plate and just do a little bit more, investigate, and suspend those players.
I just think it's so childish. It's absolutely childish. I will admit that, when I played sports, there were things, that I'd come into the dugout or I'd come into the locker room and I'd throw things out of temper and everything. And,
you always picked up.
Huh?
You always picked up.
Yeah, we had to. I didn't want to be the last one on the bus, I'll tell you that. Hey, Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley, 678-0459. They're open 7:30 to 5:30 Monday through Fridays, and it's still hats off to farmers. Saluting agriculture right here in Magic Valley. I'll tell you what, get a new cap, throw that old dirty one, well, don't throw it on the floor, we'll make you clean up the business, but just set it on the counter. And get a new one at Ramsey Heating and Electric while you get your rubber cord, fuses, everything, where they provide warm winters and cool summers. Ramsey Heating and Electric. Really good folks. Oh, and by the way, too, I want to stress the fact that we are going to have our next lunch bunch on the 30th of October, the day before Halloween. And it's going to be a Halloween party at Denny's Restaurant, 611 Overland in Burley. And you can stop in anytime, all the time, and see Thomas and Terry and the whole crew. And don't forget, the menu is absolutely dynamite delicious. You're going to love it, whether it's breakfast, lunch, or dinner. Anything and everything is great. So stop into Denny's Restaurant, 611 Overland in Burley. They are waiting right this very minute to serve you. Calls are welcome and appreciated. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I have a question for you folks out there this morning. Do you honestly trust the government? Do you trust that what they're telling you is the truth? Do you trust that you have nothing to worry about the Ebola virus? Do you trust President Obama when he says, hey, there's nothing to worry about, minuscule problems, etc.? I'm not buying into it. I want to know if you trust and believe them. And the government is telling us that it's not going to cause a problem. Physicians that I have talked to said, wait a minute, back the bus up for a second. They are scared to death that it is going to be a major problem in this country. You heard Representative Fred Woods yesterday on my program. He is a doctor. I've talked to many other doctors. We've read stories about, like for instance, Louisiana Governor Bobby Jindal, a physician, saying this is nuts. Why are we bringing in something that could be an extinction to mankind? A virus that in its strains right now, maybe they can hold it. Maybe they can curtail it. Maybe they can hold it into one certain area. But some of the doctors and some of the researchers that I've talked to, some of which are going to be on the program next week, are saying it could very easily develop mutant strains. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Deb. You know, these bombings that we're doing in the early hours of the morning or at night, whatever it is, there's nobody in these buildings. Are we trying to destroy buildings, or are we trying to destroy ISIS?
You know, Keith, I salute you for bringing this up this morning. I was going to talk about this yesterday. Excuse me. We are Joe Good Guy, supposedly, and we're going in and we're letting these people, the civilians, know in advance there's going to be a bombing raid in this area, and they clear out. Now, are we naive or dumb enough to think...
Okay.
Wait a minute. Are we naive or dumb enough to think that if the civilians are leaving, ISIS is going to stay there and play cards at a gin rummy table? No, they're boogieing too. And we're blowing apart buildings for nothing. We're wasting money that we don't have on a mission that is absolutely stupid.
And you know what we will do? In the end, we will replace those buildings at our expense.
I'm afraid you're right. I am afraid you're right. But, you know, your point is so well taken. I was listening to a couple of very knowledgeable newspaper reporters, one for the Wall Street Journal and the other one for the New York Times last night after the football game. And they were discussing the same thing, that this is nothing more than just a Band-Aid to the problem that's getting bigger and bigger every day with ISIS. We need, and I know this sounds callous, Keith, but it's the way it is. We need to go in, kill, destroy, and absolutely demolish ISIS with ground troops. It's not going to do any good from the air.
That's right. We've got to have boots on the ground, and I don't like to see Americans suffer for it. But the longer we let this go, the more American lives we're going to lose.
I agree. No, I mean, what good is happening from these bombing raids? Nothing, except it's costing you, Keith Cottom, me, Zeb Bell, and everybody else that's a taxpayer wasted funding that could be going to something much more useful to absolutely destroy the enemy.
Well, my hats are off to Panetta for the courage that he has. It's a good thing he covered the secret till now, or he'd be fitted with some cement shoes, I'm sure, and he'd be found in the ocean somewhere.
Let me ask you this, though, Keith, just to play devil's advocate with you, real quick. Give me a short answer, because I got a hard break coming up at the bottom of the hour. Do you think that Panetta is saying all this now about Obama just to sell a book, or is he really concerned?
I think it's a win-win situation for him, although he's put his life in danger. I can say that.
I agree with you. I agree with you.
But, yeah, he probably will make money off the book, but why do we need to write a book? They've told us the whole story.
Well, he is, and he does have a book, and he's promoting that book, but it's a question that some other journalists have brought up. Keith, as always, you're very appreciated in the morning. Thank you, sir, for your call. Appreciate it very much.
Incidentally, one other point. Panetta at one time was a Republican.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, he was.
Okay, you have a good day.
And I certainly hope he sees the light again. Thank you, Keith. Valley-wide Home and Ranch, 910 South Oneida in Rupert. Oh, my goodness, winter's around the corner. You got a pellet stove? Have you got a pellet stove at home? Well, they've got all your pellets. You can buy 1 bag or a ton or 2 ton, whatever. Valley-wide's the place to go for all your pellet stove needs. Yes, that's true. And don't forget they've got all the feed for your animals, too, whether you got cows, horses, pigs, chickens, dogs, kitty cats, birds. Kind of hard to have kitty cats and birds because one's going to win over the other one. Anyway, they've got all the feed for you and all the winter clothing, too, at Valley-wide Home and Ranch, 910 South Oneida in Rupert. Mandy and everybody over there at Valley-wide Home and Ranch. Very, very nice people. Oh, and by the way, too, before we go to the Capital Press Ag Minute, don't forget Snyder's Surplus. It's not just Army and hunting supplies. No, where did you get that idea? For heaven's sakes, they've got a brand new store. I mean, brand new. I was there for the grand opening. And it's located at 112 South, 200 West of Rupert. And they've got so much in the store. I mean, they got furniture like couches and desks and office chairs. And they've even got bunk beds. And they even got Halloween decorations and costumes. They got everything. Combat boots. They've got memory foam mattresses. It's all there at Snyder's Surplus, 112 South, 200 West of Rupert. Here now, the Capital Press Ag Minute.
The Capital Press Ag Minute is brought to you by OnlyAg.com. The value of cropland in Idaho continues to increase this year despite a dip in commodity prices. According to the USDA's National Agricultural Statistics Service, the average value of all cropland in Idaho was $3,040 per acre in 2014, a 6.7% increase over 2013. That followed a 10.5% increase in the value of Idaho cropland in 2013 and a 4.5% increase in 2012. The average value of irrigated cropland in Idaho increased 8.5% to $4,600 in 2014. The value of irrigated Idaho cropland rose 5% in 2013 and 5.8% in 2012. With the Capital Press Ag Minute, this is Hannah Brose.
To receive instant, exclusive, unlimited access to the West Agricultural News Source, register your account today at capitalpress.com.
Did you folks have a chance to watch it was on the O'Reilly Factor last night? And did you watch that segment called Waters World? I'm Jesse Waters. I absolutely sat back and I told my wife the exact words I said to her: we are going to hell in a handbasket. I mean, I could not believe the attitude, the personalities, the worthless, careless attitude of the potheads in Denver, Colorado, many of which have moved there just to live and languish in the city park and smoke pot all day long and be absolutely worthless. I'm not kidding. They're going to Denver, staying in the city park, they're sleeping in alleyways, they're sleeping in the park just to smoke pot. And most every one of the interviewed people, hey man, I'm just here to have a good time and smoke pot. Wow. And they have no goals. They have no dedication to anything. Nothing. And derelicts, worthless derelicts. Where are you from? Well, I came here from California. I came here from Seattle. I just want to smoke pot with my buddies. And these are not kids, all of them. I mean, you're talking an age range from maybe the late teens up into the 30s. Absolutely worthless people. Is that what we're turning the United States into? I mean, and you ask these people anything that's going on in world politics, I don't know. They're going to go vote. They are going to go vote. Some of them will. I got to go vote today. And that is what's going to decide the leadership? And that is what's going to decide where we head as a nation? I mean, where's the common sense? Legalization of pot and marijuana, in my opinion, was the dumbest thing that ever happened. And I think it's going to cause a lot of problems with our schools. I think it's going to cause a lot of problems with our athletic programs. I think it's going to cause a lot of problems with general society not being able to cope with it. I think it's going to cause problems with driving. I think it's going to cause... I'm just unlimited to the problems I think it's going to cause. And these people are loons. I don't care. Argue with me if you wish. But everybody I saw, I wouldn't want them living next to me. I wouldn't even want them walking down the road in front of my place. Worthless. Is that what we're heading for in this country? Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Holy smokes. I mean, it was sad. Honestly, I think that's the best way to say it. It was sad. You got a job? No, I don't have a job. You got any goals for the future? No, just smoke pot, man. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. The good Lord gave us all a certain time on this earth. And I honestly, truly believe that every minute that we waste like these fools are, it's absolutely criminal, and it's absolutely against our Maker. I just don't understand it. Don't forget Barry Equipment and Rental. They've got 3 locations to serve you. Addison Avenue, West Twin Falls, South Lincoln and Jerome, and, of course, 159 West Highway 30 in Burley. They've got everything over there. They got all the aerial lifts to get you way up in the air to fix things, or whatever you need to do way up in the air. They've got the nifty lifts. They got it all for you. And they've got a great selection of the Coyote tractors. They've got all the Doosan loaders. They've got all kinds of great financing programs and really nice people to work with. Stop in and see them today. Barry Equipment and Rental. And if you're looking to buy and or rent, that's the place to go. Addison Avenue, West Twin Falls, South Lincoln, Jerome, and 159 West Highway 30 in Burley. Barry Equipment and Rental. Good morning, caller. You're on the air. Talk to me, caller. Go. Gina, do we have a caller on that line? I heard the cow. Does anybody hear me this morning? Hello, caller, I'm here.
Oh, I'm here.
Okay, go.
Finally.
Yeah,
it's sad. It's real sad, that deal in Water's World. But, I am all for individual choice. I'm for people choosing their destiny and what they want to do. But it all turns out then, when they do stuff that harms their health and they get sick and can't afford to pay for it, then they expect me, taxpayer, to pay for their medical.
Yeah, Doug, I'm going to have to really think about how I stand on what you just said, because to me they're nothing more than derelicts and dependents upon my billfold and yours.
Well, true. That's the problem right there. They want free choice, but when later on in life, when their choices hit them in the butt and their health is terrible and they can't afford to take care of themselves, who do they turn to?
Well, yeah, but they're looking for a utopia. They're looking for something where they have no responsibility to anyone and no responsibility to any situation. They're looking for absolutely just laying on their knapsack and getting higher than a kite and enjoying a cloud passing over their head. And that is a cost factor to me, you, and society, and these are worthless loons.
That is the point I'm making. If they're going to make those choices when they need something later on, then our choice should be say, nope, sorry. You guys made the choice. You're in that condition now. You deal with it.
And there's another situation there, though, Doug. I personally think that anybody of that stature, there should be a screening process, and they should have to answer a certain amount of questions, maybe 10 questions, before they go into a voting booth, because these loons are not competent enough to cast a vote in this United States of America.
No, they're not. And I agree with you there. I really do agree with you. It's a sad deal, but I don't understand why we are so sympathetic to people who deliberately destroy their lives and then yet expect us to fix them and take care of them when they've, deliberately done this to themselves.
Yeah, and the other thing is, this morning also, I caught a little bit of this man on the street, and some of these people were darn near 50 years of age. I think the ages range probably from, I'd say probably the early 20s up to about 50. They held up a picture of Joe Biden. And do you realize of the people that were interviewed, they all looked at Joe Biden and they go, hey, man, I don't know who he is. I've never seen him before. This is really scary to me, because these people, their vote is in the voting booth the same value as yours and mine, but it has got to stop.
It does. Let's just hope and pray that they're too stoned the day of the election that they don't make it to the voter booth.
I don't know, Doug, but I'll tell you something. It's a very scary situation. No responsibility, no goals, no hope for the future. This is what we're turning this country over to. Good Lord help us.
I know it, and I put the blame personally on their parents for not installing, confidence, what you call respect for others,
I agree with that. And a lot of people have criticized me and say, oh, you're perfect. Oh, you do everything right. No, I don't. I've made a lot of mistakes in my life. But you know something, Doug? Nobody handed me a silver spoon that said, you win, here's everything, we're going to give it to you. I went out and worked for it.
Exactly. And I'm the same. I'm coming from the same cloth. I had to work for what I have. Yes, my parents were very helpful and supportive, but they didn't give it to me.
That's right. And here's the case with these kids. Well, these people, they're not all kids. I don't want to just defame kids. I think, honestly, they're living on the dole, a lot of them. A lot of them take their money, maybe from a stipend they're getting from a family situation or whatever. Maybe the family just wanted to dump them someplace else because they were worthless, and they're giving them some kind of a living expense, and they're wasting it buying marijuana and getting high. Are you kidding me?
No, I'm not. I've known people. I used to live in Steamboat Springs, and I knew a couple people out there that were trust fund kids, and their parents just give them money and said, don't come home, don't write, don't do nothing.
Oh, brother.
Just stay away.
It's pathetic. Thank you for your...
And that is.
Well, it just is indicative of what kind of a society this last 6 years has allowed to grow and really be a part of the, I think, a larger percentage of kids that are just giving up.
Well, I beg to differ with you on that, allowed to grow. I think they pushed it.
I agree with that.
Watered it and fertilized it.
I agree with that. I do. Okay. Doug, thank you very much.
You betcha. Have a great day.
All right. Hey, I want to talk about Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley. Now, I'm telling you, folks, they have helped me a lot. I even get really emotional thinking about it because they've got that pool for the hydrotherapy, and they've got Nick Greenwell, the physical therapist, Jordan Anderson, physical therapist, Jeff Jensen, Orlando Giraldo, Emily Hording, Kelly Moulton, Tia Mullins, Jared Lamp. All of these people really care at Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation. I absolutely enjoy going in there. I'm going in there this afternoon, as a matter of fact, for another treatment. I really got dinged up after the surgery with my leg and the rehab. Wow, they do a great job. Please take my advice. Call them, stop in and see them. Number to call 678-1191 or stop in. Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation, 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley, right behind Dr. Crane's office and across the street from Family Health Services. You'll be glad you did, because they're helping you get back to being you. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Did you hear what they did up in Seattle, Washington for next Monday? Yeah. They got a bunch of loons up there running the city of Seattle, and they're not going to call it Columbus Day. By the way, let me stop for a minute. Here on this program, it'll be called Columbus Day. I will never espouse to being politically correct. But up there in Seattle, they don't like Christopher Columbus. Oh, they think he was a mean man. Oh, they think that he came to this country and he was just really a bad guy. So we're not going to honor Christopher Columbus or Columbus Day anymore. We're going to call it Indigenous Peoples Day. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Zeb. Talking about their parents not giving these potheads any reason to have a goal or whatever else, I guess I'm looking at it a little bit different. I don't know what you expect from the parents when that was probably two people smoking pot doing things they shouldn't have been doing. It's where this people you're talking about come from.
Yeah, but that's
there was no. We have right here in our own schools. I know some school teachers here around Cassia County, and we have people right here that they look cross-eyed at a kid, and mom and dad are in here cussing, yelling, and screaming at them.
Yeah. I will say this, though, and I think you'll agree with me, is that we can't generalize and say all, but we can say some of the problem is this. I mean, when you generalize and you say all, then you get into a problem. But, you know, there are the parents, like Doug was saying a minute ago, that basically are so fed up with their offspring because they're lazy louts and won't do anything in their life, they'll literally pay them to get out of the way. And there's that kind of a family, and there's other circumstances, too. Go ahead.
Well, it's a sad scenario when we start making these things legal, and they lead to all kinds of other things, I believe, anyway.
Well, let me ask you something really quick. Why? What is the common sense in a society that has always espoused to moral values and always espoused to being in God we trust? What is the moral sense in changing the rules now and say that, well, we're going to modernize? Baloney, that's not modernization. It's like going back into the dark ages to legalize a product like this where you got a bunch of damn derelicts that aren't working, aren't being contributory to the society. What good is that going to do?
Absolutely none, and amen to everything you said. I totally agree with you, and it's going to be the demise, or a portion of the demise of our nation.
I agree, sir. Always welcome, and good to hear from you. Thank you.
Well, good to hear from you. One other thing, right quick. We got, and I talked to you earlier about some attempts on debit cards, computer-wise and otherwise, computer-generated calls. We get our Social Security on a debit card, and this month there's been 3 attempts from 3 different locations on one call and 2 emails and our voicemails. And mine and my wife's both have had 3 attempts made on them this month.
I'll tell you what I would like you to do, seriously. Call my cell phone after the program. I need to visit with you about this. 312-2976. Call me. I need to talk to you, okay?
All right, you will do.
All right, thank you, sir. God bless. Hey, it's time for the weather. Oh, my, it's time for the weather. I'm running late, and the weather is brought to you by one of my favorite places, Mad River Laser. They've got a brand-new business right over there at 502 East Street, right on the square in Rupert. They moved over there. Oh, my goodness. If you need promotional items for your business, Nicole is absolutely the best at this. I mean, whether it's sweatshirts, T-shirts, caps, or whether it's knives or pens or tote bags, you stop in and just let her show you everything that she has and what she can make for you. Nicole at Mad River Laser, 502 East Street in Rupert. And right now, Michael Rogers weather.
Yeah, hello everyone. Michael Rogers for Zip of the Ranch. Another day of nice weather. I'm keeping an eye on a storm that's way out there right now, but so far, as I stated Monday, you get nice weather all the way through the week. So another day of a lot of sun, very little clouds, and comfortable temperatures. 73 to 75 for the high today. Enjoy the weather. See the weather you got.
Yeah, boy, Michael, thank you very much. Brought to you by Nicole Pratt at Mad River Laser, 502 East Street in Rupert. And believe me, they've got it all over there, all on display. You just walk in, you're going to love shopping over there. And tell her what you want for your business. Mad River Laser. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Zeb, between ISIS and Ebola, it's truly unbelievable, the things that are occurring in front of our eyes and the things that we have been forced to forget or at least put on the back shelf, like Benghazi and IRS. And I don't know if you noticed last night Colonel Ralph Peters on Kelly.
Yeah.
And how mad he was. I mean, you say, like, can we not hear this from Jim Risch and Mike Crapo? Of course, we're never going to hear it from Simpson. I just can't imagine what these guys are thinking when they know damn good and well they're going to get reelected. And why they can't speak up.
Randy, you've touched a real sore spot with me. When you start talking about Mike Simpson, I'm going to be really honest. We are less than a month away from the elections. And I have not heard a word from Mike Simpson's office at least, and I want to be fair when I say this, at least for 3 months, not during the entirety of the summer. And basically not since the primaries. And I'm going to have, if he ever calls me, and he ever gets on my program, I promise you that one of the first questions is going to be, Mike, have you had a chance to reevaluate your calling us McCarthyists when we talked about and were worried about the involvement of the Muslim Brotherhood in this administration? And he's never called to apologize. He's never called to maybe discern his remarks. And I'll tell you something, Randy. Right now, this administration is kowtowing not only to the Muslim Brotherhood, but Muslims in general and Islam in general. And we need a complete evaluation, and we need a new president.
Well, let me tell you what happens. Every Thursday I drive to Pocatello to freight supplies from up there. Okay, so when I'm up there, I lose the signal. I lose it about American Falls. So I kick over to 92.1, which is out of Idaho Falls, and I can't think of the guy's name, but as I was driving home last Thursday, I heard this guy say, he said, Mike Simpson in the studio next whatever day it was, and I said, well, that's unique. I said, don't hear a damn word from him over here, but he's in the studio in Idaho Falls.
I don't care if he goes on another program. I think he just needs to let his voice be heard in this area. He needs to let people know where he stands. The election is less than, I said, a month away. He evidently has something in his craw for me because I stood up to him about the Muslim problem, and I'll stand up to him again. If he thinks, as a former dentist, now turned congressman, that I'm going to wilt in front of his presence and bow down and kiss his wingtip shoes, Randy, you got another guest coming.
Well, all I can think is Neil Larson is this guy over there. That somehow this other dude is not asking anything. He must not feel threatened by this guy. You see, what good is it to have this person sitting there and not question him as to why he isn't saying something, at least talking about defunding EPA or something, because he is on that committee. So I'm not, whoever, the other radio show, that thing, he obviously isn't forcing him to do anything. He's not making him feel uncomfortable. And what good is, he doesn't do anything anyway. I don't know. I just want somebody to speak up like Colonel Ralph Peters did.
Well, I'll tell you something. I've rankled evidently his fur a little bit, and his staff is not calling me. And that's fine. That's fine. But then I'm going to remember that on Election Day, too. Randy, God bless. I got to do a commercial.
Hey,
thank you.
One thing.
Yes,
I called there, and I says, you need to have Mr. Simpson get on the Zeb Bell program so we, the constituents of southern Idaho, Burley Twin, can hear what he has to say. What is the deal? Oh, well, let him know, sir. We'll let him know, sir.
Yeah.
And obviously, if they do, it doesn't help.
Well, and the thing is, if he wants to get on this program, and he wants to get mad, and he wants to yell at me, and he wants to try to denigrate me for my attitude, that's a two-way street. I am not copacetic to what's going on in this world. I'm a taxpayer. I don't like the fact that they've welcomed Ebola into this country. I don't like the fact that they've welcomed the Muslim Brotherhood into this administration. I don't like the fact that our economy's going to heck in a handbasket. So if he wants to get mad at me, it's a two-way street.
Hey, you probably spoke about how Obama sent, a representative down to the mosque in Oklahoma where that terrorist cut that lady's head off, beheaded her, and you say, well, what was the point? What was the point of him doing that?
there is, in my opinion, no point to what this administration is doing. Look what they've done with Eric Holder as the Department of Justice head. They have covered up so many things. Look at what, conversely, he has done for Obama to cover up so many things. I asked earlier this morning, do you trust the government? My personal answer is no.
Well, you can't, because they're not to be trusted when you get lied to every day for 6 years.
I got to run, Randy, but I appreciate your call always. Thank you. Don't forget Sophie's Chatterbox, 530 East Street on the square over in Rupert. Oh, my goodness, they got a bakery over there, and they make delicious, wonderful wedding cakes, cookie bars, homemade bread, delicious cinnamon rolls. Oh, my. It's a great place for breakfast, lunch, or supper, Monday through Friday, 6 to 6, Saturdays and Sundays, 6 to 2, Sophie's Chatterbox on the square in Rupert. Also, I want to say thank you to our major sponsor. I got a big old spider that just landed right there. I don't like spiders. Go ahead and giggle if you want to. The son of a gun was about 9 feet long. Anyway, don't forget, great big tire sale going on at your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. All the different tread designs for your cars, pickups, SUVs, horse trailers, whatever. And they've got a lot of the custom wheels on sale, too. And don't forget, professionally trained technicians with the best of brake service. Absolutely. Front end alignment, shocks and struts, batteries. Think about your battery now. Getting in the colder weather. Yep. Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family and Paul, John on Poline and Twin Falls, and Randy on Overland and Burley. I just about knocked the microphone over. Your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. The best. Okay, let's see what else have we got cooking. Now, the next hour, don't miss this. It's going to be really interesting, I think. We've got attorney and Newsmax reporter James Herson, and he's coming on from Hollywood, California, and he's going to be talking about Pierce Morgan. Remember Pierce Morgan? Oh, he got fired from CNN, and he used to be one of the judges on that, what was it, America's Got Talent? Well, he's trying to make a new movie now, and he's trying to get all the funding, and it's a promotional movie to eliminate private gun ownership. He hates the Second Amendment. Yeah. And we're going to talk to James Herson about this. And then at 9:30, Jared Meyer from the Manhattan Institute is going to be talking about the first birthday of healthcare.gov and what a mess it is. And then later on this morning at 10:06, Dr. History. And then we'll have a special story we want to get out to you at about 10:30 this morning. So that's it. We're going to take a little break for a few minutes and let you kind of go and recoup. We'll be back. Zeb at the Ranch. Don't go away. Boy, today is one of those program days where I wished I could just pick up this entire desk and just move outside on my sun deck. Oh, is it nice outside. Good morning. I'm Zeb Bell, Zeb at the Ranch, with our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you. And, of course, some of our great advertisers like Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More at 459 Overland and Burley, and our friends at Western Waste.
From the canyons of the Snake River and all across southern Idaho, we're always at your disposal. Western Waste Services, we care about our community, our resources, and these great men. Western Waste Services is lending a hand, always at your disposal. Western Waste Services.
They are always at your disposal. I suggest that you give them a call and find out about getting on the route service. We're on the route service, have been for many, many years. And Thursdays, vroom, the big trucks come up and get our garbage. It's gone. All you have to do is call them at 734-6969. Western Waste Services, always at your disposal. You give them a call today. Oh, my goodness. In just a moment, we're going to have one of my favorite guests on the program, Attorney James Herson from California. Stand by. But I also want to remind you, too, about Hanson Mortuary, 710 6th Street in Rupert, with Joel Heward, the manager, 436-5636. They recognize the sacred trust the grieving families place in a funeral director, and they always work with the families upholding the highest ethical standards with unquestioned integrity. Please give them a call, and they can serve you. That, again, is 436-5636. Hanson Mortuary, 710 6th Street in Rupert, with manager and a good friend of ours, Joel Heward. Please remember the name and the number. Hanson Mortuary, 436-5636. Let's go to the phone line right now and talk to a man that knows all about what's going on in Tinseltown and around the area, and for that matter, the United States. And we're going to be talking to attorney and Newsmax reporter James Herson. Good morning, James. Good to have you back on the program.
Hey, good morning, Zeb. How are you this morning?
I am great. You know, it's such a pretty day up here. I said just a moment ago I'd like to move my whole desk out on the sun deck. It is a beautiful fall morning in southern Idaho.
Oh, but, you know, and then you have that unusual aroma in the air, cleanliness, that we don't smell out here in Southern California, so that must be nice to smell in the morning.
By the way, how are the California Angels doing? I just thought I'd throw a little salt in the wound.
Yeah. Well, you know, we had dreams of a freeway series here for a while.
Uh-huh.
But, yeah. Yeah, the salt it hurts. But, you know, I always love the fact that there is at least a team with a positive name, Angels. So that's nice.
Absolutely. James, Pierce Morgan, this guy, I've never cared for him when he was one of the judges on America's Got Talent. He's always been kind of a pompous, very ego-centered type person. And now I understand from what you sent me, he wants to have a documentary that, quite frankly, would say everybody's got to give up their gun and their protection. He knows more than we do. What's going on with Pierce Morgan?
Well, you know, he devoted, as you all know, he had this show on CNN, Piers Morgan Live. He took over the show when Larry King retired, and he dedicated a significant portion of the airtime to what has become an obsession for Piers Morgan, and that is, you know, wanting to undermine our constitutional rights and take away our ability to defend ourselves and our families. This guy is now, ironically, I had filed this article, and then he's on some sort of a tour, and he was on Fox primetime last night as a guest, and just once again can't stay away from it, pontificating about, you know, what we should do in the United States is what they did in Britain when they banned all firearms, blah, 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 and they haven't had a school shooting and this sort of thing. But during the period where he had this television show, which, by the way, was, of course, canceled, and he was fired because of terrible ratings, the only thing that was worth watching was he would have intentionally people on his show from Second Amendment rights organizations, people who were right of center, thinking that he was going to ambush them. And more often than not, what happened is Piers Morgan lost the debate, and that was fun to watch. The reason is, of course, Piers Morgan's background. You know, you mentioned he was a judge on a reality show, Britain's Got Talent and America's Got Talent. He was also a participant in The Apprentice. And before that, though, he was a print journalist. Mm-hmm. That's what he is now. He works for the Daily Mail. And he's a smart man, but when you write, and I know this from, 25 years of experience writing, if you write, you can be very, set forth your arguments, but nobody's talking back. It's not the same as being in the media and debating with succinct statements. And he the reason he lost the debate is he's not a good debater. And also, of course, his ideas about guns are silly and emotional, and that's all. I mean, they're not based on any kind of logic. So because he's obsessed with it, he claims that he's already been approached by big players in Hollywood that they want him to make an anti-gun documentary, that the anti-gun documentary, a film, would be in the style of Michael Moore's Bowling for Columbine. And look, you and I know there's not a great demand out there for a reboot or a sequel to what was in fact a propaganda film filled with error, Bowling for Columbine. But in Hollywood, there's a whole host of players who sympathize with this issue and just might be, willing to help Piers Morgan because it doesn't cost that much to produce a documentary, and then he would come back and appear on all these talk shows. And one of the things he mentions, by the way, recently in his, I guess he's going on a kind of a speaking tour, is that he would be willing to take a phone call from Rupert Murdoch if he called him about Fox. And it's interesting that he appeared on Fox last night. God help us, I hope Fox isn't considering bringing Piers Morgan to their lineup.
You know, James, we have so many different issues out in front of the public today. One being, of course, the supposed climate change, and we've got people like Matt Damon and Leonardo DiCaprio that are involved in that. And it seems like Hollywood wants to jump on the bus and lead the charge for social change. But I don't hear a lot of actors down in Hollywood stepping up to the plate against the Second Amendment. Who are these people?
Well, yeah, I mean, you don't hear them vocally, but we do. You know, in other words, whenever there's a high-profile shooting, like Sandy Hook, which is the one that Piers Morgan brings up, right after the shooting, the left-wing politicians and the celebrities jump to the microphones. There was a series of PSAs that came out. I think they were financed by Bloomberg, and they had a whole bunch of celebrities saying, that we've got to do something, blah, blah, blah. The implication was it was gun control. And some really crafty individual put together a montage of these same celebrities holding automatic weapons in films. Look, we have Denzel Washington in a shoot-'em-up film right now. We have a couple of these action movies. They always have mandatory scenes with guns. Hollywood is living off of guns.
Right.
But yet they'll run to the mics to condemn them. You don't hear, we used to hear the wonderful, legendary Charlton Heston, because he became president of the NRA, and he was willing to come out in favor of gun ownership. We have very few celebrities with the guts to stand up for the right of the Second Amendment. Because, in Hollywood, you mentioned climate change. If you call for a rally for climate change, people will show up in Hollywood in droves because they know that in the lemming community of Hollywood, if you stand up for climate change or saving the baby seals or something like that, that'll help your social calendar and your networking and your career. But if you stand up for the Second Amendment, you may be blacklisted and it may harm your career. Even people that have stood up for it are tepid about it, like Tom Selleck, who used to be someone who would debate that in public. You don't hear him doing that anymore.
That's right. We have a caller with a question. James, thank you. Caller, go ahead, please. Sorry to keep you waiting.
I would like to know if he is an American or is he British, and if he is British, what gives him any credibility to try and change the Constitution in the United States?
That's a good question. I know that his background is a Brit, but what about that? Does he have American citizenship, and what about his credentials? Go ahead, James.
No, I'm really glad you brought that point up, because the reason that Piers Morgan got to the United States and was on this show, America's Got Talent, is because they got it in their head in Hollywood that, hey, for a reality competition to be successful, we got to get one of these guys like Simon Cowell on American Idol. That was back when American Idol was super successful. So they wanted a Simon Cowell sound-alike, look-alike. In other words, someone with a British accent who was mean. And they got Piers Morgan, and he fit the bill. But he's a British citizen. He has absolutely no standing, no right to come over here and trash our Constitution, which, by the way, he has at least explicitly said he thinks the Constitution of the United States is wanting. I mean, in his view, he doesn't view the Constitution as something precious as we do. And so he doesn't even understand really, American tradition and the American creed. So the caller's right. I mean, he has no standing. And there were people during the period when he was on CNN who not only wanted him canceled, but wanted him deported. So, which essentially is almost what happened there. I agree with the caller, and I think the idea that this guy would come back. Look, I think that he's probably really going to make this documentary, but I don't think anyone's going to go see it. So whoever's putting up the money, I think, will lose their money.
Let me ask you this, and it's in regards to the money. When you talk about us common citizens that are living out in the hinterland, like I am, in a very rural area, we need to make sure that we have and partake of our own protection, because law enforcement would be a good 30 minutes away, if that. And when you take somebody like Michael Bloomberg giving thousands and literally millions of dollars for anti-gun campaigns, and Michael Moore's and other people, how can we defeat the anti-gun people with their big checkbooks?
Well, look, we have, thankfully, some wonderful organizations in this country. A lot of people, they have their criticisms of the NRA, but I have to tell you, the ads that the NRA have on the tube now are just brilliant, and I'm sure their membership is growing. Gun Owners of America, Larry Pratt's organization, has been an absolute godsend. So we support those organizations. And the other thing is, we have to realize not that we should always be continually vigilant in trying to support these rights, but as far as gun ownership, we're winning, and the Michael Bloombergs are losing, because the candidates that stand for undermining the Second Amendment are losing. And they know it, and that's what we have to realize. They'll put forth candidates, left-wing Democrat candidates, who will lie about the Second Amendment issue. But I agree with you. It's not just rural. Can you imagine living in Chicago, where the record killings are going on, which is my hometown? I came from Chicago, and not being in a position to defend yourself. And of course, we know the Second Amendment is in the Constitution for far more than just self-defense. It is a check, and it is truly a check on dictatorial, tyrannical government growth. And it was the first thing that every totalitarian regime has ever done in history, as soon as they get the reins of power, and this is true of communist regimes, this is true of Hitler, this is true of ever since there have been firearms, and even before when there were swords, they disarmed the public. And there's a reason for that. The fact that America has this high individual firearm ownership is something that those that wish to have stronger dictatorial government measures dislike, and obviously the international community dislikes, because the UN has a treaty where they want to try to use a treaty to disarm us. So it's just a matter of eternal vigilance and keeping networking and being together with others. And I think it's John Lott had that book out. I mean, statistically, we know that the ownership of firearms, that no one ever reports crimes that are prevented by firearm ownership. There's 10 times as many incidents of individuals who have firearms, either brandish them or make the sound of shotgun loading, whatever, and a crime is prevented. That doesn't get reported, but John Lott cataloged that, and that's why he wrote that book, More Guns, Less Crime, and it's empirically proven. And so we just keep getting the word out and listen to the words of Charlton Heston.
Absolutely. One final thought, James, and I would be amiss if I didn't ask you about this, but I've seen the excerpts and I've heard a little bit about the fray on Bill Maher's program regarding Ben Affleck and Bill Maher, and Ben Affleck took the stance of pro-Muslim, pro-Sharia law, and surprisingly enough, to me at least, Bill Maher took the other side, and boy, they really got into a heated exchange. Give us your opinion on what happened on that show, Real Life.
Sure. Ben Affleck presents the view of the Hollywood left, and Bill Maher, who fancies himself an independent and who hates religion, but at least he's an equal opportunity hater. He looks at Islam in its teachings, and he was able to say, basically to kind of pull the rug out from under Ben Affleck when he didn't expect it. He thought he was in the company of a fellow leftist. And Bill Maher is basically saying, look at the facts. Look at what's going on. Don't use this language about tolerance and peace. And I think it kind of went viral, that battle. And when Bill Maher's right, and it's rare, we have to give him credit, and I think he's had an awakening. I think, how can you not have an awakening when we wake up in the morning and now we have beheadings on American soil?
Yes.
And that the government, in their abject ignorance, or worse than ignorance, refuses to investigate the possible motives of this individual who was attending a mosque, who was trying to convert people to Islam, and who had a Facebook page filled with beheadings and with praise for ISIS. And then they jump to the conclusion that it is not terrorism. I think that's what Bill Maher is reacting to. He's reminding me of the late Joan Rivers, who reacted to media coverage about a clash between Israel and Gaza. So it could be. Bill Maher's an interesting character. I used to be a regular on his old show, and I know him. And he does have a side that the public doesn't see. There's actually a very thoughtful and very virtuous kind of side. Like, for example, you never see Bill Maher in trouble, over partying. He's more of a home guy, but of course he leads his nihilistic lifestyle at home. He's moved from a position of atheism to a belief in a supreme being, but he's still hating religion. Well, that's a big step. I'm glad to see him acknowledging that life has a purpose, and I think he's on the road. He was born and raised. He had a Catholic father and a Jewish mother, so that I think he's just a bit confused.
Let me ask you a favor. I'm going to call back in a couple of, if not a week, maybe a little less, and see if I can't schedule you again and talk about Christianity, talk about religion, and talk about someone with the personality of Bill Maher. I'd like to go over that with you, but in the meantime, Newsmax Hollywood reporter and legal analyst James Herson, God bless you, my dear friend. Thanks for being on the program this morning.
Well, God bless you, and enjoy that beautiful weather.
All right. Thanks, James. I'll be in touch. Thank you so much.
Take care.
I really enjoy having him on the program, and he has worked with almost all of the folks mentioned in Holly Weird or Tinseltown, and I respect this man for his honest appraisal of what's going on. James Herson, thank you very much. I'll give him a call, and we'll talk more about that subject of Christianity in Hollywood. Holy cow, got to pay some bills. Let's see, where are we at? Right now, Cheney Flooring and Home Design, 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley. Look for the blue door. And don't forget, they've got a lot of repurposed furniture in there. All redone, repurposed furniture, like lots of dressers. They just had a whole shipment of those into Cheney Flooring and Home Design. And they've got the do-it-yourself classes, the do-it-yourself workshops, so that you can learn how to do it yourself. All right? Stop in or give them a call. They're at 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley, 678-6945. Cheney Flooring and Home Design. Look for the blue door. There you go. Also, did you hear that? Did you hear that? Did you hear everything that we've said so far this morning? Well, if you didn't, please acknowledge that you might have a hearing problem. Please acknowledge that you might be having hearing loss. Well, wait a minute. It's not an age problem. It's not normal at all. You better get a hold of Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids. Christine Pickup, Doctor of Audiology at 1218 9th Street, Unit 2, behind the Minidoka Hospital, across the street from the emergency room. And I hope you can hear this number, because call for an appointment. 312-0957. That number again, 312-0957. Did you hear that? Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids. In just a minute, we're going to have Jared Meyer on the program with us with the Manhattan Institute. We're going to be talking about the first birthday of healthcare.gov. Happy birthday to you. Anyway, let's also talk a little bit about Let's Ride. Hey, they've got snow machines. I mean, they've got snow machines here. They've got snow machines there. They got snowmobiles over there. They've got all the accessories. Now, wait a minute. That showroom is just chock full of everything. All the ATVs. Wow. I mean, just go in there to Let's Ride. Open the front door and look from left to right, right to left, and go, holy cow, how did they get all this in here? And like I said, they've got everything for you where the fun is sold. Stop in Highway 24 between Rupert and Burley. They're open Monday through Saturday, 9 to 6, and they're waiting to serve you. And they got a great service department, too. Let's Ride, where the fun is sold. Really good, folks. All right, let's go to the phone lines and say good morning to a young man with the Manhattan Institute. His name is Jared Meyer. Jared, good morning. How are you?
I'm waiting for him to call me back.
When you talk to me like that over the microphone, when I'm expecting Jared with a bass voice to say, good morning, Zeb, you scared me more than a little bit.
Well, I'm glad that I could scare you, but we now have him on the phone, so he's ready.
Gina, you do a great job. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And we'll say good morning to Jared Meyer with the Manhattan Institute. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. How are you doing today?
I am great. You've been on my program before, Jared, so it's good to have you back. But before we go any further, what is and what does it do, the Manhattan Institute?
Well, the Manhattan Institute is a think tank that works to promote individual responsibility and personal freedom, while in the face of, a government intervention that keeps growing and growing, they're fighting to try to let individuals have more control over their lives.
Holy smokes, you guys must be busy 24/7, 365.
Well, I never run short of material to write on, so that's for sure.
Well, now, today, and we might jump into something else, too, if we have time permitting, but today I was going to sing happy birthday to healthcare.gov, but I thought if you wanted to go ahead and light the cake, or light the fuse, whichever, go ahead. What are your thoughts about it celebrating its first birthday? Gosh, I feel so blessed.
Well, I thought I would see a little more celebration from the administrators and the administration and its supporters in Congress. But to my surprise, when I rolled out of bed last Wednesday, I checked the White House site, there was no mention of healthcare.gov's first birthday. I checked Nancy Pelosi's site. Again, no mention. I even went to Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid's site. Surprisingly, he left it off his website as well.
Why do you suppose that is? I mean, my goodness, you would think that they would be like little leprechauns on the lawn. They'd be jumping between the lawn sprinklers and going, "Oh, we read it and we love it." Oh, don't you think that's going to happen?
Well, that's what I expected. But, with the midterm elections looming large on November 4th, and the law remaining as unpopular as ever, it seems as if the administration is trying to hide and not really talk up, especially something that was as troubled as the healthcare.gov rollout a year ago, which I'm sure I don't need to remind you about how ugly that was.
Let me ask you this, Jared. How bad is it? I mean, we've heard things about, it's going to do this, and oh my goodness, people are going to lose coverage, and oh my goodness, it's going to cost an arm and a leg, figuratively. How bad is it, really?
Well, we have a new report from the Government Accountability Office that brings up major security concerns about individuals' personal information that they've had to enter when signing up on the exchanges. So that's obviously a big problem, but, in the face of, a happy first birthday, I thought the administration would overlook that, but they must see it as big of a problem as I do. And then on top of that, the law has many unintended labor market consequences that's punishing full-time work and stopping employers from hiring when we're still in the midst of an anemic economic recovery.
How have they hidden all this? I mean, they being the government, they being the Obama administration, how have they managed to cover this up from the media? And why, on the other hand, has the media neglected to report on those stories?
Well, besides the political incentives of the media, I think one thing we see is that the law was continually touted as a way to give people insurance who didn't have it before. And that's something that on its face, could get some wider bipartisan report. I mean, who doesn't want to help people? But when you look at the costs and the actual effects of the law, that's where you see the real problem. For example, you would think, now, even with all these problems, at least we have everyone having insurance.
Yeah.
But surprisingly, the Congressional Budget Office has found that 31 million people are still going to lack insurance. So we're spending all this money to the tune of $1.5 trillion over the next decade to leave 31 million people without insurance.
Yeah, but wait, whoa, stop for a minute, Jared. Correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm an old man that lives in southern Idaho, out in the sticks. But 31 to 40 million people, that was the goal at the inception of the Affordable Care Act. They said that they could cover those. Now you're saying we're still back with the same loophole of 31 million people. So what did we gain?
Well, we gained about a 30% reduction in people who are uninsured, at least the projection from the CBO. But I figure I should let you know now, I'm going to roll out the Jared Meyer healthcare reform plan.
Okay.
Which is, we're going to take the money that the administration spent to the tune of $10,700 per person per year who's gained insurance and just give them the money to buy their insurance on the private healthcare market. That would avoid disrupting a sector of the economy that takes up almost a fifth of GDP, and it would give individuals more choices. It just doesn't make sense what the Affordable Care Act has done to the healthcare market.
All right, now wait a minute. Let's kind of recap this a little bit. We've had wonderful American families get letters in the mail saying that their coverage is no longer existent. We've had their premiums skyrocket. We've had pick-and-choose type health insurance to where they've had to get plans that are outrageous with high deductibles. We've had many people drop coverage because they can't afford it. We still have at least 31 million people uninsured. It's no wonder nobody's cutting the cake on this birthday party.
Well, I think that was a perfect summation of where the law stands right now. And as you can see, I guess that took down the party mood a little bit in D.C.
Well, the money, I mean, come on, Jared, you're the expert on this. $1 trillion? $1 trillion they're going to spend to decrease the number of uninsured by 30%? Wow, we can't afford this. We're borrowing it from China.
Well, and the interesting thing is the law was always touted as something that would not increase the deficit and actually help, because they were taking credit for reductions in healthcare spending that really have nothing to do with the Affordable Care Act, and having insane assumptions such as we'd actually adjust the Medicare reimbursement rate. So the law from the beginning, budget wonks, and people who have studied this knew it was going to be a budget breaker. Now it's just bearing out for everyone to see.
Now, Jared, you're a sharp guy, and I'm sure you've thought of this, but I'm just going to pose this to you. Right now, I'm going to use the words incompetent and imbecilic as to what the government did by allowing Ebola patients to come back to this country to be treated. And now we're looking at a case here, a case there, Nebraska, Delaware, possibly Washington, D.C., Texas, pretty soon other points of interest. This could turn into a human disaster. What is that going to do to the cost of health care?
Well, the Ebola situation is unique because it's so difficult to spread as other, contagious diseases that could pass in the air. Ebola, you need direct contact with, body fluids or, being a lot closer. So I'm not as worried as some. I can understand the concern, but I think with the healthcare system we have in place, and there's been treatments that have looked really promising, but have been held up by the FDA. So we may have never had this problem in the first place if the FDA would have just gotten out of the way and let people who created really life-saving medicine in the form of vaccines for Ebola to just bring those to market. Now you see the government trying to rush and play catch-up, as they always do, where instead they could have been proactive and let the companies who had come up with cures and or vaccines for this help people.
There's another problem, too, and that is with the Affordable Care Act, and I hate using those words because I find them to be so offensive. Obamacare is what I'm going to say because I want to always lay the blame on Obama. Research is being stymied because of a lack of money, and we have another virus in this country that has been around for a couple of years, but now it's becoming prominent. It's called the enterovirus, and it's a paralyzing type virus, almost similar or compatible to polio. It has killed 5 wonderful young people so far. It hits mostly younger people, 3 to 17 years of age, and this also is going to be a big hit on health care, is it not?
That's interesting. That's a development I haven't followed as closely, but if it's something, on the scale, as you said, with effects similar to polio, that's something that's definitely scary on the outlook of the healthcare market when you already have so many other factors that you just named.
Jared, what about insurance in the future? Looking ahead 10 years into a crystal ball, what do you see as far as coverage is concerned? Or is this a very sinister plot for the government to see this turn into a huge debacle and then provide a one single payer type program?
Well, when it comes to insurance in the future, high deductible plans are where we're moving. I'm sure everyone who's seen changes in their plans, all of a sudden you've got a higher threshold before insurance kicks in. And also with the Affordable Care Act mandates, we're needing more types of coverage under every insurance plan, regardless if that's best for the patient. And when you also mentioned how it's changed the market and it really destroyed the market in many ways, I don't know. The question on how to fix it needs to be more centered on patients and their specific needs rather than on what some bureaucrats in Washington decide everyone needs in their plan. So that would be the way I'd see to kind of reform this, but we're definitely heading down the wrong path towards higher deductible plans, higher costs, and these costs being increasingly borne by young Americans.
When you looked at the study for this piece that you wrote on behalf of the Manhattan Institute, and you look at the American economy, you look at basically the demise of the middle class. People can't afford the middle class anymore. They're either poverty-stricken or they might jump up into the 1%. What are your thoughts for the future? Because health care right now, as far as I'm concerned, it's pricing itself out of existence.
Well, but yeah, definitely. Healthcare costs have risen, and there's been a slowdown recently, but that's not because of the Affordable Care Act, and it's not something that I see continuing down into the future. What we need to do is embrace medical innovation, and there's a lot of promising treatments out there, everything from individualized treatments that can work with the specific genes that people have when they're battling, long-term crippling diseases. But again, coming back to the FDA, if we're going to create the barriers so high for the drug companies to bring a helpful treatment to the market, they're just not going to be able to. And when they do, the costs are going to be too high. So we need a system that, rather than works to thwart medical innovation, supports it and allows a more individualized system where people have choice and the options to choose from on how they can best treat their diseases and keep themselves healthy.
What you said earlier, I want you to elaborate on just a little bit before I let you go. Your idea is not a bad idea, that for those 31 million people that have no insurance, that still have no insurance, we'd be better off just giving them a check and saying, here, have at it. That's not a bad idea, and it'd probably save us all a lot of money.
Well, and the thing is, it would be a lot cheaper, too, because a lot of these people who still lack insurance are younger people who are choosing to pay the fine because it makes no sense for them to pay these really high deductibles. Even on the lowest level Affordable Care Act plan, the bronze level, we're looking at thousands of dollars a year. And they've been hit with massive rate increases. Everything from 130 to 170% is pretty normal for both young men and young women to see, because under the Affordable Care Act, they can only pay no more, or people older than them can pay no more than 3 times as much in premium costs, even though their health care expenses are a lot higher. So what we're doing is asking our nation's youth, people who, as you pointed out, no longer have as clear of a path to the middle class and as a path to success, are instead being told to subsidize health care for older Americans who already have a job and are up on their feet.
Yeah.
So I see that as one of the pinnacles of unfairness right now.
Jared, final thought, and it's kind of away from healthcare, but I've been watching television a lot lately and finding out what the younger generation is doing or not doing. And I'm going to be honest with you, there are some sharp young people out there in the world, but here's the caveat. There are a lot of basically worthless souls that don't care. I watched the interview in Denver, Colorado last evening with Jesse Waters on Fox News on O'Reilly as they went to the city park in Denver and they were interviewing all the pot smokers. And here we had ages like 18 to like 35. These are worthless people with no goals, no jobs in mind whatsoever. And then I watched another man on the street interview to where they went up and they asked them some political questions. They had no clue. They showed a picture of Vice President Biden. They had no clue. What's going on with the younger generation? Do they not care? Because when they step into the voting booth, if they do vote, they're nullifying a good vote for sense.
Yeah, one question is political engagement is always down more among young people, but you see that with the millennial generation quite a bit. One thing I think that you can get them energized into voting and looking at ideas that promote freedom and individual responsibility is bringing up things such as ride sharing, Uber and Lyft, where they use that to get around. When cities and states ban it in the name of government protection, they're directly hurting young people. Well, even if we look at breweries, how small craft breweries are being forced out of business by too high regulatory and tax costs. So if we can find ways to connect the principles of freedom and liberty in ways that directly affect the lives of young people, I think they'll soon be able to connect the dots and see that this is a wide problem, that when the government gets into healthcare, it's just as bad as government getting into your beer.
So you have some hope and aspirations for the future for the younger generation. It's not all doom and gloom, and they're not all going to be laying on the grass over at the Denver park getting high on pot, right?
Yeah, I guess I'm an optimist, but I do think there are some signs for having positive feelings. I mean, as you pointed out, the political engagement needs to be overcome. But like I said, I do think there are some positives for our younger generation, and I think the millennials, when they come of age, will hopefully learn from the lessons that we've learned under the Obama administration and not make the same mistakes again.
hopefully we'll never have an administration like the Obama administration ever again in our future. Jared, thanks. I appreciate it. You come back anytime you want to with the Manhattan Institute. Jared Meyer, you're a good guy. I appreciate it very much. Thank you.
All right, thanks for having me. Have a good rest.
You're welcome. Thank you, sir. Nice young man, Jared Meyer, policy analyst at Economics 21 at the Manhattan Institute for Policy Research. Good, sharp kid. I like that. I'll have him back. Let's pay some bills. And then we'll take some of your phone calls. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Give me a call. Don't forget the harvest of savings at Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More. I mean mattresses. You can get a king for the price of a queen. Ha-ha! And window coverings, 30 to 40% off. And they've got the power recliners. And you know, they've got all your carpet needs. Just rolls and rolls and rolls and rolls of carpet. And all the floor coverings. They've got everything for the beautification and the comfort of your home. All you have to do is just stop in there and say hello to my dear friends at Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More. 459 Oberlin and Burley, or give them a call, 878-2341. Once again, Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More. Really good people. All right, give me a call, 436-224418. Oh, my goodness, I forgot the weather. Well, for heaven's sakes, I'm surprised Gina didn't say, hey, listen, you old fogey, you forgot, you messed up. Our weather is brought to you by Lennox Home Comfort Systems. Gas furnaces, air conditioners, heat pumps, whatever, you'll enjoy the comfort. Through our friends at Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. Here now, Michael Rogers' weather.
Yeah, hello everyone. Michael Rogers for Zip of the Ranch. Another day of nice weather. I'm keeping an eye on a storm that's way out there right now, but so far, as I stated Monday, you get nice weather all the way through the week. So another day of a lot of sun, very little clouds, and comfortable temperatures. 73 to 75 for the high today. Enjoy the weather. See the weather you got.
There you go, Michael. I appreciate it. And talking about Lennox Home Comfort Systems, yes, sirree, Bobby. Gas furnaces, air conditioners, heat pumps from Ramsey Heating and Electric, 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley, where they provide warm winters and cool summers at Ramsey Heating and Electric. Oh, Gina, you got the new computer system all figured out?
Heck no.
That's not how you would have told me on another day.
No. It's still just a learning process and everything. So we're getting through it, but it's not one of my favorite things.
Well, now, wait a minute. What? I am not a computer person. You laugh, giggle, and tee-hee at me, and rightfully so. But what are the big changes?
Well, if you're on my end, and especially with K-Bar, we have a lot of network feeds, i.e. we do a lot of things via the satellite. Oh. And so to set up everything with the new system, you have to set up your workflows, make sure all of your tones are correct. I mean, it's very, very technical. And K-Bar is pretty much the nightmare station compared to everything else. The overall look and operations of this new computer system is similar to the old one, but just a little bit different in some of the options that you have. And so feeding things through, i.e. getting the commercials on different segments, you have to kind of go through a different process and use some different computer programs to get the same job done as we were doing before. And so it's, just learning how to use all of these different little programs and to make sure that everything gets into the proper spot.
Well, I want to compliment you. You're doing a heck of a job. By the way, I have a little story here I was going to read to you. It's very short, and I want your response to this. It's from the Houston Herald in Houston, Texas. A woman from Houston, Texas was arrested, jailed, and charged with manslaughter for shooting a man 6 times in the back as he was running away with her purse. The following Monday morning, the woman was called in front of the arraignment judge, sworn in, and asked to explain her actions. The woman replied, "I was standing at the corner bus stop for about 15 minutes late at night, waiting for the bus to take me home after work. I am a waitress at a local cafe. I was there alone, so I had my right hand on my pistol in my purse hanging on my left shoulder. All of a sudden, I was spun around hard to my left. As I caught my balance, I saw a man running away with my purse. I looked down at my right hand and saw that my fingers were wrapped tightly around my pistol. The next thing I remember is saying out loud, "No way, punk! You're not stealing my paycheck and tips!" I raised my right hand, pointed my pistol at the man running away from me with my purse, and started squeezing the trigger of my pistol. When asked by the arraignment judge, "Why did you shoot the man 6 times?" the woman replied under oath, "Because when I pulled the trigger the 7th time, it only went click."
I've actually heard that before, and it's a true statement. You know what? Don't mess with a lady when she's got a gun and she's, just, trying to do her thing. And, yeah, you take her money and her paycheck, and boy, howdy, you're going to pay for it.
Waitresses of all people, God bless them. They work hard. They're on their feet. They're running all during their shift.
Yep.
They're trying to keep people happy, and the cook might mess up the order, and the waitress always gets the blame.
Yes.
And it might be cold. It might be undercooked, whatever. The poor girl's got to try to be the middle person to solve and salve the wounds. And basically sometimes then won't get a tip. And she's working for hardly any money whatsoever. And she's standing at a bus stop late at night, and some creeping weirdo steals her purse, and she unloads literally on him. I don't blame her a bit.
I don't blame her a bit either. And wasn't she I think if that was the true story, then I do believe she was let off. There was no charges.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, the end of the story says the woman was acquitted of all charges. She was back at work the next day.
Yeah, and I say good for her because, I've been a waitress for a large majority of my life, and it is... you get some great customers, and then you get some not great customers, and then you're running your tush off, and then you get off late at work, and then you're trying to get home, and for somebody to even think about taking your hard-earned money, and trust me, these waitresses work damn hard, then I told you.
But another point too is that they're always subjected at those late night shifts in the big city, Chicago, whether it's Sacramento, whatever, of standing there waiting for a bus, and then you get these creeps out there. I mean, I don't blame her one little bit.
Me neither. We've got a quick phone call.
I'll take that call in just a minute. Go ahead, caller. I'll be right with you, but I want to tell everybody about when you think about life insurance, and that crook should have thought about that. When you think about life insurance, think about Cameron and Siemens Insurance, or health insurance. I hope he had some. Retirement planning or employee benefits, you better think about Cameron and Siemens Insurance. Dean Cameron, Todd Siemens, very, very dedicated and responsive to your needs. Don't forget, they're devoted to serving you and helping you. So please give them a call today, 436-4424. Cameron and Siemens Insurance, Highway 24 in Rupert. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Good morning, sir.
Well, welcome back.
Thank you, sir.
What did you think about that story?
As far as I'm concerned, blow the hell out of the guy.
She did.
Good. Luckily, it wasn't me. He'd had a few more holes in him.
Jeff, our society has turned into a wussy-wimpy society with the liberal left and the gun control freaks and everything else. But you know something? I make no bones about it. I'm not going to see where or how, but let's just say that whenever I get into certain situations, I have protection because I'm not going to be waiting for the police.
Well, I saw a new sign out there. I think I'm going to apply it for my house. It says, I don't call 911 till after.
There you go.
It has a picture of a gun on it.
And you're not being over and above the law. You're being to the point where you're going to protect your family, you're going to protect your property, and you're going to protect yourself, and not do anything over and above what the law says you can do.
Well, yeah. I mean, one of my sister-in-laws, gave me a hug this week, and she says, "Are you packing?" I said, "Yes." She says, "Do you really think you need to?" I said, "You know what? If anything happens between me, somebody else, my family, you guys, yeah, I would."
Absolutely. No question about it. No question about it. Both my wife and I have the certification for the concealed permits, and I'm just going to let it go at that. And I think you don't want to tee Goober off.
That's right. That's right. And you know, the funny thing is, a lot of sheriffs, a lot of police chiefs, stuff like that, are starting to get on the bandwagon. They have found, and there is proof out there, that when there's been more guns out there, crime has gone down.
Well, real quick, I think it was the Milwaukee, Wisconsin, Milwaukee County Sheriff that came out at a meeting of sheriffs nationwide and said absolutely he would stand up for the Second Amendment, because he said, quite frankly, he and his staff and others cannot always be there at the drop of a hat, and people have to learn how to protect themselves.
Well, the other thing is, the city of Chicago, the police chief there has, ever since they lost their deal on the conceal and carry in that town, has admitted that crime has dropped in Chicago since that happened.
Absolutely. Jeff, I got to do a commercial quick. I will talk to you later. Please give me a call. Thank you so much.
You got it, my friend.
All right, God bless. Thank you very much. Kilt man right there. Appreciate it. Hey, by the way, real quick, I want to tell you what's going on over at the Chadwick Sports Grill. Oh, boy. I got the wrong menu. Get the right one, Zeb. There you go. Today, they're having Hawaiian chicken wraps. Oh, that sounds good. With choice of potato super salad. Hawaiian chicken wraps? Gotta go to the Chadwick Sports Grill, 139 West Main in Burley. Great items on the menu. Great service. I love the environment in there at the Chadwick Sports Grill, 139 West Main in Burley. Today, Hawaiian chicken sports wraps. We're going to take a little break. Be back in a couple of minutes. Don't go away. Make you nervous? Once a week I gotta try that. Just sit here and enjoy the music, and Gina's going, oh no, where did he go? I'm here. Zeb at the Ranch. I'm Zeb Bell with our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations. And also some of our great advertisers, including Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More at 459 Overland in Burley, and our friends at Western Waste Services. Always at your disposal. Get rid of your garbage, 734-6969. Oh, by the way, again, I want to mention to you, Lennox Home Comfort Systems, gas furnaces, air conditioners, heat pumps, all through our dear friends, Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. Open 7:30 in the morning, 5:30 at night, Monday through Friday, 678-0459. Wow, it's Tuesday already, and that means we get a chance now. Everybody, come on over here. Come on over here. Sit down right there. There's a spot over there for you. Spot over there for you. Not too close to the fire. You'll burn yourself. Now be careful. Sit down and enjoy. Here's Dr. History.
Zeb, how you doing this morning?
I am fantastic. Sounds like you got a cold.
Oh, just a little bit, but I'm getting over it, and I'm feeling okay. So, yeah, my voice is a little bit different this morning.
I thought maybe you were outside inhaling bean dust.
Well, there's a little of that going on, isn't there?
Absolutely.
Harvest time, I love it.
Well, you know, I always look forward to Tuesdays because I can sit back and close my eyes, and I can put myself in another time. I can put myself in another era. Listening to Dr. History.
Well, Zeb, as you think about the things that, the events that took place that really helped settle the West, there are several things that may come to mind. Anything that comes to your mind?
The livestock industry, cattle business.
Okay. Well, we're going to go a little beyond that. How about the Transcontinental Railroad?
That was my next choice.
That was it. Well, that's what I'm going to talk about today.
Okay.
So, next to winning the Civil War, building the first transcontinental railroad from Omaha, Nebraska to Sacramento, California, was probably the greatest achievement of the American people in the 19th century. And actually, it wasn't until they started to work on the Panama Canal that something almost of equal difficulty took place. But the railroad took brains, muscle, and sweat. Never before had people put into a single project something like this. But it could not have been done without a representative political system, without skilled and ambitious engineers, most of whom had learned their craft in American colleges. It couldn't have been done without bosses and foremen who had learned how to organize and lead men, and these guys had actually been officers in the Civil War, but they learned leadership skills there. Couldn't have been done without hardworking workers who had learned how to take orders in the war, without those who came over to America in the thousands from China. And these people were seeking a fortune, but it couldn't have been done without laborers speaking many languages and coming to America from really actually every continent in the world. And then again, let's throw in the natural resources in America, the trees and the iron. And then again, it wouldn't have happened without capitalists that were willing to put their money on the line for this high-risk venture. Mm-hmm. And most of all, it could not have been done without teamwork. I mean, this was an amazing, again, if you read about this is an amazing feat that took place.
Absolutely.
But, you know, the United States was less than 100 years old when the Civil War was won. Mm-hmm. Slavery was abolished and the first transcontinental railroad built. And it wasn't until nearly 20 years later that the Canadian Pacific would span Canada. And it was actually a little bit longer of a railroad. But they actually used a lot of the engineers that had been on our transcontinental railroad. They actually used workers and engineers. And it was about another 25 years after the completion of the American that the Russians got started on the Trans-Siberian Railroad. And here the Russians used more than 200,000 Chinese people to work as compared with the American employment of about 10,000 or so Chinese workers. And I'll get into that a little bit. They were very, very good, hard-working people. Still, the Trans-Siberian at a little over 5,000 miles was the longest continuous railroad on the earth, and then the Canadian Pacific was second at a little over 2,000, and then the transcontinental, ours, was actually in third place as far as length. But the Americans did it first, and this was in 1869. And as I mentioned about the Chinese, the workforce primarily Chinese on the Central Pacific and the Irish on the Union Pacific, but with people from everywhere on both lines. And at its peak, it approached the size of the Civil War armies with as many as 15,000 on each line, one coming from the west, one coming from the east. But the leaders were the big men of the country. First of all, of course, President Abraham Lincoln. And he was really a driving force. I mean, he really, really wanted to get this railroad built. And then there was Ulysses S. Grant and William Sherman. These were the men that pretty well held the Union together after the Civil War. Now, supporting them was a guy that really, really is important. His name was Grenville Dodge. Now, he was a Union general, and he was the chief engineer of the Union Pacific and could be called America's greatest railroad builder. And then, there were, like I mentioned, from the Civil War, there were generals and a lot of engineers and foremen, and a lot of these guys were veterans who made it happen. And it could not have been done without the Civil War veterans and their experience. So it was the war that taught them how to think big, how to organize big projects, and basically how to persevere under pretty extreme situations. Now, the Union Pacific was one of the two biggest corporations of its time, and the other was the Central Pacific. And, of course, the Union Pacific came from the east, the Union Pacific came from the east, the Central Pacific from the west, from Sacramento. Now, the surveyors, the men who picked the route, they were really what we would consider kind of a latter-day Lewis and Clark type people. Now, if you think about these guys, they were out in the wilderness. They were under extreme conditions. They were attacked by Indians. They were living off buffalo, deer, elk, antelope, and ducks, and leading a life that we can only imagine today. So these guys had to be pretty courageous men trying to figure out the best route for the railroad.
Absolutely.
Now, the surveyor, who above all the rest earned everybody's gratitude, was a guy by the name of Theodore Judah. Now, to start with, the Central Pacific was his idea. In his explorations of the Sierra Nevadas, he found the mountain pass Together with his wife, he persuaded the politicians, first in California, then in Washington, that this could be done. And he wanted their support. And it was this guy, Judah, above all others, who saw that the line could be built, but only with the government help. Well, of course, the government help, that began with President Abraham Lincoln. And as I mentioned, he's the one that really was pushing to try to get this done. But the problems the companies faced were pretty similar. Nearly everything each line needed, including locomotives, rails, spikes, and all everything that went with it, the railroad ties, had to be shipped from the East Coast. So for the Central Pacific, that meant transporting the material through Panama or around South America.
Wow.
And to haul all that stuff over Panama from east to west, that had to be a major undertaking.
How many months did that take? Had to be at least 3 months, didn't it?
Oh, to get things across?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, because first of all, you might have things dropped off on the east side, and they might reach the west side in 2 weeks, but then you may have to wait a month or two to get a ship heading north.
Oh, my goodness.
Up to Sacramento.
Yeah.
So for the Union Pacific, it meant across the eastern United States, then over the Missouri River, which, remember, with no bridges, then out to the construction site. For much of the route, even water had to be shipped along with lumber and everything else they needed.
Wow.
Now, except for Salt Lake City, there were no white settlements through which the lines were built. And there were no white men that lived in Nebraska west of Omaha or in Wyoming, Utah, Nevada. There was just nothing really out there. And then, of course, there were problems with the Indians for the Union Pacific. Now, keep in mind, here's the Indians who had not been asked or given permission or paid for what they considered was their land.
Yeah, here comes the Iron Horse.
Yeah, for the Central Pacific, there was a problem of digging tunnels through the mountains that were made of granite. Now, again, this was a huge job. I mean, there were 13 tunnels that had to be built. The longest one was about 1,659 feet long,
wow.
124 feet under the ground. And the job of drilling and blasting was back-breaking, really, really hard labor. So,
well, now, think about that, though. Once you blasted, quote-unquote, a tunnel, my goodness, the rock and the debris, that would take almost forever to clean up, wouldn't it?
Well, it would, and again, this is where the Chinese workers were a great asset to this whole project.
Yeah,
because they would work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They had shifts, 8-hour shifts, and they would work 24 hours a day, getting this done. So, but the workforce on both lines got so good at moving the end of a track forward that they eventually could do it almost at the pace of a walking man. And doing so involved building a grade, laying the ties, laying the rails, and then spiking in the rails, filling in ballast. Again, nothing like this had ever been done before.
So you say they could lay track as fast as a man could walk alongside the track?
Pretty close.
Now, in my case, if they're going to use me as a gauge, that's pretty slow.
That's pretty slow. But they, again, if you've, I've watched documentaries on TV, and they will bring a railroad car with the track on it, and they'll get men on each side. They'll lift the rail, move it forward, set it down. The men will start putting in the spikes. The men go back and get another rail. They can move it ahead. They keep just one right after another, about as fast as a man can walk.
How could they be that precise on everything, though? I mean, my goodness, in those days, they didn't have all the instruments and they didn't have all the gauges and everything. Boy, oh boy, there had to be a lot of mistakes.
Well, and initially, I think there were, because initially, the most important thing was getting it done. And the government actually set this up as a race, the Union and the Central Pacifics were actually kind of racing, because the more they built, the more they got paid.
Yeah, but how would you like to be the engineer on the first train that went over those tracks?
Or the passenger.
No thanks.
The big question was, do you want to build fast, or do you want to build well? And so actually over 90% of the American people said, just get it done.
Yeah.
Hurry. So
you're going west, but actually, when you look out the window, you're going south.
You might have been. But, time, along with work, is a major theme in building of the railroad. And now, if you think about this, before the locomotive, time didn't really matter that much. But with the coming of the railroad, time became so important that's when we started getting phrases that like time is wasting or time's up or the train is leaving the station at such and such a time. And what is called standard time came about because of the railroads.
I see.
And before that, just the local towns, they kind of had their own time, and you might ride from one town to the next, and you'll say, well, it's 10 o'clock, and they'll say, no, it's 11 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
But because the railroads published schedules, the country was divided into the 4 time zones.
I wondered who caused that.
Yeah, and so that's where that all started. And so it was the railroads that served as the symbol of the 19th century revolution in technology, and the locomotive was the greatest thing of the age. And with this, man conquered space and time. So that's where our 4 time zones came about.
Okay.
But this could not have been done without the workers, whether they came from Ireland or China or Germany or England or Central America or Africa. They were all Americans, and their chief characteristic was how hard they worked. And work was different. And as I mentioned, nearly everything was done by muscle power. They didn't have any electrical equipment, any backhoes or track hoes or electric drills, things like that. So, the Transcontinental Railroad was the last great building project to be done mostly by hand.
Okay, now wait a minute, stop. Because when you think of the Chinese and the way they're depicted on the television and movies, the little people scurrying around doing this and that, you go ahead and move thousands and thousands of ton of rock, you're going to develop into a pretty big dude.
Well, and these guys were hard-working. They didn't hesitate. Now, again, think of this. Excavating dirt and rock for cuts through ridges, and once removed, one handheld cart at a time.
Wow.
And then the dirt for filling up a dip or a gorge in the ground was brought in by hand cart. And some of these fills were enormous. These fills were maybe they were hundreds of feet high and a quarter of a mile or more long.
Wow.
So all that done by backhand labor.
Oh, my goodness.
And then black powder was used to blast for tunnels, but only after handheld drills and sledgehammers had made an indentation deep enough to pack the powder.
Handheld?
Yeah, handheld. And so
I wonder if you'd want the job of holding on to the spike.
No, I wouldn't. You wanted to have a good partner because he had a sledgehammer and you were holding the drill bit and he was slugging that drill bit with the hammer. You had to be a pretty good team.
The thing is, if all of a sudden you were assigned a team member and you looked at him and he was cross-eyed, I think I'd quit.
That's right. But, making the grade, laying the ties, laying the rails, putting the spikes in the rails, and everything else involved in building this road was back-breaking, hard work. And yet it was done generally without complaint by free men who wanted to be there. Now, that included, as I mentioned, the thousands of Chinese working for the Central Pacific. Now, contrary to some people's belief, they were not brought over here by boatload to work for the railroad. Most of them were already in California, and they were glad to get the work. Although they were physically smaller, their teamwork was so good that they were able to accomplish things that are really amazing. And again, you mentioned they weren't very big, but they were amazing workers. Mm-hmm. And then you look at the Irish and the others who built the Union Pacific that were also there by choice. And they were mainly young ex-soldiers from both the Union and the Confederate armies. And a lot of these guys were unmarried, and they really had no reason to go home. And so here was a chance for them to work and make some money. So, but, it's difficult to get information on these individuals in the workforce because a lot of these guys did not write. They didn't keep journals. They didn't keep diaries. And so it was a little difficult to know the day-by-day workings of exactly what they did. I mean, we kind of know how they worked. We know where they slept and how much they ate and drank, and their diversions. They did some dancing and gambling and one thing and another, but along with winning the Civil War, what they did really made America what it was, made modern America.
So now, I want to go back to something you said. I know I'm interrupting you, and I don't mean to.
That's okay.
But how many, would it be miles of track could they lay on a good day?
That depended a lot on, whether you were on the West Coast or the East Coast, or the eastern end. Because, of course, if it was fairly flat and you didn't have to do a lot of filling or digging, they could move. I think they said they could do 700 feet in 5 minutes.
700 feet in 5 minutes.
One of the guys. He tried to measure for one of the reporters was there, and he said he counted 5 minutes, and I believe they did about 700 feet.
Okay.
In that short of a time.
Holy smokes. I'm sitting here, I don't have a calculator in front of me, and I'm trying to, with my Fort Atkinson High School mathematics mind, which is not real operative, trying to figure this out. That's a lot of miles per day if they could keep up that pace.
Right. And when things were going smooth, they moved along very, very well.
Yeah.
And then, of course, again, back here in the Sierra Nevadas, over the mountains, you think about this. They started in Sacramento. They went up over towards Reno, Nevada, up over that summit. And again, 13 tunnels that had to be drilled through the mountains.
Wow.
And then, if we trace this along, they started in Omaha on the east, went through pretty much the North Platte rivers where they pretty well, or the Platte River, because it was fairly flat. But over through Sidney, Nebraska, Laramie, Wyoming, Rollins, Wyoming, Green River, down to Ogden, Utah, around the north side of the Great Salt Lake, and then over through Elko, Nevada, Battle Mountain, Winnemucca, and down again, as I mentioned, down to Reno, Nevada, and then on over to Sacramento, California.
Wow. And I would imagine that the logistics, that favorite word of mine, logistics of the situation, like you said, not only the equipment needed, not only the material needed, but what about all the food?
Well, again, it was a teamwork effort, because, again, you might have a cook shack or a cooking facility, but had to be moved maybe 2 or 3 miles by the next day.
Wow. Really interesting.
But let me just, I know we're about out of time here, but let me just talk a little bit about the tunnels.
Okay.
Of course, they went over Donner Pass, and or they went through Donner Pass. There's a tunnel that's 1,659 feet long and about 124 feet beneath the surface. But, and again, I mentioned the Chinese workers working in shifts, 8 hours a day, 3 shifts, and at each end, and they were to meet in the middle. Now, there was only room for gangs of about 3 men, and one would hold the rock drill against the granite, while the other 2 would swing 18-pound sledgehammers to hit the back end of the drill.
Holy smokes!
So again, if you're the one holding the drill, you better be pretty steady.
Yeah.
So, but of all the backbreaking labor that went into building this, a lot of dangers, the drills. It was a rough life, and the men swinging the hammer had to have muscles like steel. And of course, when a hole was at last big enough to get the black powder in, they would put a fuse in. Everybody'd yell, and everybody'd go run. And the blast would hopefully do what it needed to do.
Holy smoke. We got to do another story on this. I mean, man alive, they had to have medical attention. I'm sure a lot of guys might have sneezed while they were holding that great big rod, and then somebody goes, "Oh, sorry about your arms."
Yeah. Send in the next guy.
Yeah, really. Dr. History, now, quickly, I'm almost out of time here, but you're not going to be here next week.
No, No, but we will have a program on the air.
All right. And for those across the world in 40 different countries that still do business with us after listening to Dr. History, dr-history.com. And really, how many hits have we had so far?
36,000 hits in 25 different countries. A lot in Japan, Thailand, China, of course, Beijing, Peking, Russia.
Well, see, now, like over in Beijing, China, if they're listening, we want to let them know for sure that, see, we really worked hard originally to get the first railroad built.
That's right.
And thank their people for being here.
Yeah.
There you go. God bless you, man. That's excellent. Excellent show.
All right, Zeb, you have a good day.
I will. Dr. Ken Turner, better known as Dr. History, dr-history.com. You can listen to all these programs. I tell you, that man is good. I'll do a commercial after I get back from the break. I'm going to turn it back over to Gina, and we'll be right back. Don't go away.
And now, back to Zeb at the Ranch on AM 1230 KBAR. To reach Zeb, call 436-2244 or toll free 1-866-927-4587. And now, here is Zeb Bell.
Don't forget, we've got some great people that we want to acknowledge on this program and segments. Now, like on Thursdays, we have a segment called School Days in Cassia County, and the lovely Debbie Critchfield has helped us really make this grow, and it's very popular, and it's sponsored by two wonderful businesses. First of all, A Child's World at 1308 Overland in Burley, and don't forget they've got all the Halloween costumes, 25% off on those costumes. They've got new shoes arriving daily, and they've got all kinds of holiday dresses there, and hundreds of new infant outfits right there at A Child's World, 1308 Overland in Burley. You stop in and see those good folks today. And don't forget, too, the Ambulatory Surgery Center at 1344 Highland Avenue in Burley. Life-saving, and I underline that and say it again, life-saving colonoscopies performed by outstanding surgeon at the Ambulatory Surgery Center on Highland in Burley. Also, remember, if you're having knee pain and numbness in your hands or pain in your arms, it could be carpal tunnel, and don't forget they can help you at the Ambulatory Surgery Center. For more information, please give them a call at 677-8888. That number again, 677-8888. The Ambulatory Surgery Center and A Child's World, bringing you School Days in Cassia County. You know, folks, we are in an ever-changing world every day, and not for the better. And I was reading something in USA Today the other day in the sports section, as a matter of fact, and it caught my attention, and it just made me sit back and go, oh my goodness. And it was all about the state of Minnesota, and they're having a major problem right now with their state high school leagues and their sports because of transgenderism. This is a subject that is absolutely abhorrent to talk about, but it's coming up on the horizon, and more states are going to have to deal with this. But I'm just going to read you what was sent to me by a newspaper in Minnesota. And here's the first paragraph. It says, at a meeting Thursday of the Minnesota State High School League board members voting on the first ever transgender policy for high school athletics in Minnesota. And then it goes on to say what they did at the meeting and how they tabled it till December 4th to come up with a final action plan. Now, one of the board members said this quote, and I want to read this to you as a preface for you calling in and talking about this story on the air. This board member by the name of Chris McDonald said, "We need to get this right. Gender is not a certainty, biologically or scientifically." What? I'm going to read that again. Gender is not a certainty, biologically or scientifically. Now, parents are outraged. Parents are absolutely outraged back there As a matter of fact, Jason Adkins, executive director of the Minnesota Catholic Conference, held up a petition of over 3,300 signatures that are against the transgender policy in sports for high schools in Minnesota. 3,300 signatures against it. One person went to the microphone, a 16-year-old transgender, a quote-unquote student athlete from Minneapolis, and voiced support of the policy. Now, my question to you is, are we that sick and perverted in our society that we are going to be caving in to abnormal and subnormal claims of transgenderism and opening up our sports, our athletics, to, well, I think that person says they're a boy, but they're actually a girl, or that person's actually a girl, but they think they're a boy, and so now we have to let them pick and choose the teams they want to play on? Is that where we're headed in our society? And let me ask you this, how are teams, how are high school teams, be it a football team, basketball team, cross-country team, doesn't make any difference, how are they going to regulate any kind of decency or moral conduct in the locker rooms? And what about those that are going to look at this situation in the vein of being fraudulent and not being of transgenderism and just using this to be a pervert? What are your thoughts on this? I think this could be a death knell for sports teams and destroy men's and women's sports teams. I can remember vividly a couple of years ago, right here on this program, we had the story about a man that was 6'8". He was 45 years old, and he decided that he was going to be a her, and he went back to get a college degree and played on the women's basketball team. Is this the creation of a unisex society that you want? I don't. With the bathrooms, the locker rooms, the clothing stores, athletic teams, all being of a unisex order. What about the Christians in the audience like myself? Why do we have to adhere to those sick and perverted values, if you want to use that word? And why are we subjected to using and accepting this filth and this deviant lifestyle? Give me a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Caller, good morning, you're on the air.
Yes, Deb. I grew up in Minnesota, as you probably know. I also was good enough that I played on the baseball team. I actually got my letter. But I was not allowed to play in the out-of-school, out-of-city games because the other schools did not supply a locker room for a girl. So, and actually, I'm probably the only girl that ever was allowed on the team prior or since, many years ago. But this is so wrong. There was never any question about letting me play. But I was content with that, and I still got my letter.
Yeah, but wait a minute, Adrian. One of the points that's not being addressed in your case is that you were never confused about your gender. You were never saying you wanted to be a boy and that you didn't want to be a girl, or vice versa. This transgenderism is absolutely being a destructive force in our society, and I think has absolutely got to come to a stop.
Oh, I totally agree. That what I'm saying is that you don't have to be a transgender if you want to play or participate. They make allowances for you, and it's even more so today than in the past. But this is just totally out of control, and I'm so disappointed in Minnesota with all their Muslim and everything that's going on back there. I'm ashamed to even say I'm from there anymore.
But what do we do? I mean, when we have, whether it's a boy or whether it's a girl that says, no, God made a mistake, I'm actually a boy, or God made a mistake, I'm actually a girl, and they say, well, we're going to apply to play on this team. You're opening up a door, a Pandora's box, if you will, of problems and lawsuits and an opening for perverts and frauds to get involved. I mean, Adrian, this could be one of the absolute nails in the coffin for sports teams in general.
Yes, and I have to add the fact that I was so highly respected by all the boys, even the the other schools we played that came to our home games. I had full, total respect for them, but I can't even imagine what it'd be like if it was a transgender. They wouldn't have the respect for them, I'm sure.
Absolutely, and thank you for your call this morning. I appreciate it. Our society, they say, is changing. They say our society is evolving. Well, for those of us, and we are in the high percentage numbers that don't want to see this change or this evolving, we need to speak up and be heard. I mean, my goodness sakes, come on. The story, and I have somewhere in my pile of papers, to which don't ask me to find it because that would be impossible, a picture of a guy that's wearing about 4 or 5 stubble days of beard, 6'8", and he's playing for an all-girls college basketball team. Because he said God made a mistake, he should have been a woman. Please, he got a scholarship to play, by the way. What are your thoughts on this? Gina, I want to get you in on this. What are your thoughts about this transgenderism? And now this is coming up in Minnesota for their state high school rules and regulations, and you know it's going to go to other states.
It probably will go to other states. I honestly think that the state of Minnesota should, stand firm in that, boys get to play on boys' sports, girls can play on girls' sports, and the two shouldn't mix. A
gender is a gender.
It is.
A boy is a boy, a girl is a girl. I mean, I'm trying to be very simplistic about this. But the teams, how are they going to regulate the decency, the moral standards and conduct, and can you imagine what this is going to do to sports in general?
Yeah, it could totally wreck the entire sports as a whole.
And before we went on the air this morning, in fairness to this conversation, Gina and I were talking a little bit about and there will be, the frauds and the perverts that will use this and utilize this to get a toehold into a certain situation.
Yeah. Or, get themselves into a locker room that they shouldn't be. This could create an entire mess just all across the board.
Whatever happened to a nation of decency? Whatever happened to basically accepting what God has given you as your life and as your gender and making the most of it? I'm just pathetically sick over what's happening in Minnesota.
Yeah, and so am I, and I'm hoping, and I know that it probably wouldn't happen here in the state of Idaho, but you never know. If one state's going to do it, then more states are going to probably jump on board.
Well, look at what happened up at Boise State University. It wasn't that long ago that you and I were sitting right here on the radio talking about the transgenders and the bathrooms that they wanted to have at Boise State University.
Yeah. They wanted to have their own separate bathroom?
Yeah.
Did that ever get built?
I'm not sure, but there's an easy way to solve it. Just go rent one from Western Waste.
The good old porta potty.
There you go. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. We'll have more and take your calls. Don't be a coward on this. Please, don't be a coward. It's something that needs to be discussed, and we need to kind of hang the laundry up to dry and find out what you feel on this subject, because if it's happening back there in Minnesota, it's going to happen in other parts of the country too. Weather this hour is brought to you by Scarrows Meats, 331 North Road, Jerome. They are your hometown meat cutter, locally owned custom meat processor for over 20 years, and they sell taste one bite at a time. They guarantee everything they sell, and everything they sell is delicious. Here now, Michael Rogers weather.
Yeah, hello everyone. Michael Rogers for Zip of the Ranch. Another day of nice weather. I'm keeping an eye on a storm that's way out there right now, but so far, as I stated Monday, you get nice weather all the way through the week. So another day of a lot of sun, very little clouds, and comfortable temperatures. 73 to 75 for the high today. Enjoy the weather. It's the only weather you got.
All right. Thank you very much, Michael. Brought to you by Scarrows Meats, 331 North Road, Jerome, 324-7657. They guarantee everything they sell, and like I said, it is delicious. Selling taste, one bite at a time. You know, it's interesting to me that you would have a story like this, and you'd talk about it's something that a lot of people want to shy away from. It's something that a lot of people don't want to talk about. But now the State Athletic Association in Minnesota is going to have to come up with a first-ever transgender policy for high school athletics. And they had, as I mentioned earlier, over 3,300 signatures on a petition against a transgender policy. And one person got up and voiced support for the policy, and they listen to and tend to lean towards the one person. Absolutely ridiculous. Give me a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Another thing that goes under the realm of being ridiculous is President Obama not listening to anybody, and I was listening yesterday morning to Donald Trump, and Donald Trump absolutely is spot on over what Obama did with bringing the Ebola virus and all the Ebola victims, if you will, into this country. And his words were exactly this: what the hell is Obama doing in allowing all of these potentially very sick people to continue entering the United States? Is he stupid or arrogant? What is he? What is Obama? Is he stupid or is he arrogant? I've said many, many times on this program that Obama is one of the most pathetic, ego-centered ideologues filled with narcissism and blatant stupidity for a lot of things that he does and he adheres to, and this is one of them. What are your thoughts, or are you not concerned? Give me a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Okay, while I'm waiting for your call that I know I have great faith is coming in, don't be afraid. I won't back you into any corners, I promise. I'll go ahead and tell you about a big tire sale going on at your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. They've got all the tires on sale. Whether it's the Eclipse tire for your car, or the Wildcat AT2 for your pickup and SUV, or the Ultra Z900, oh my goodness, all the tires are on sale right now. You better get in there and check out all the great buys. And don't forget they've got the best tire value promise in the industry with peace of mind, tire protection, I bit my tongue, and lifetime tire and mileage care. Absolutely, along with a lot of the custom wheels on sale and the best brake value promise in the industry. Professionally trained technicians, they know brakes. Along with front end alignment, shocks and struts, and of course the best in batteries. All of this and more with Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family in Paul, John on Poline in Twin Falls, and Randy on Overland in Burley, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Gina, where's my calls? Everybody ran and hid.
I don't know.
But I'll ask you this question as a mom.
Okay.
Kennedy is seven.
Mm-hmm.
The enterovirus. Are you, and I know you are because you're a very caring, loving mom, you probably are a little bit concerned about that.
Yeah. My son has been, gone through the vaccinations, and he did get the flu shot this year, which, of course, then the flu made its way around my house. So we all got it, so now we're all immune to it. But very concerned, And talk is that, my son may be going to visit his dad because his dad just moved to Alaska, coming around Christmas time. And so my fear is that, Is he going to contract it somewhere where I'm not going to be with him? You know, is he going to be put into a situation, taken to a place where it is, and he's going to contract it? So, you know, as a mom, you always want to keep your kids safe. And how do you do that?
Well, no, right there, you just kind of piqued my interest, because I was thinking about something during the 10:30 break.
Okay.
Whether it's the Ebola virus or whether it's the enterovirus, these viruses, they say, are communicable only with the bodily fluids, like with the Ebola virus, and I'm not so sure about the enterovirus. But what I'm going to say is, Gina, every day when you go to the shopping center, or whether you get groceries, or whether you push the cart and you don't know who has touched it or what was on their hands, or you go through a parking lot, you step in something, you take it in your home. I mean, the list is endless as to the dangers that you must be cognizant of.
It's true, and you can use, you know, massive amounts of hand sanitizers and keep sanitizing wipes with you wherever you go. But people sneeze, people cough, people, you know, exude bodily fluids just in daily living. And so when you're out in public places, unless you are arming yourself with all of these disinfectants, you're bound to get something.
Well, it's almost like, and I saw this on television the other night, I want to mention this to you. There was a guy, and it was before the big scare for the Ebola virus came out, and he was saying, well, let's just fist pump and not worry about handshakes. And it's almost like this was a prelude, like it was almost the opening dialogue for the problem coming with the enterovirus and also the Ebola virus. It almost seems like, look out, we're going to have to go to a store and buy a plastic suit. That's going to be our mode of attire from now on.
Well, a plastic suit, a respirator, hand sanitizer. I mean, we might as well just, before we walk out the door, make sure that we are completely in a bubble, so we don't contract something.
Do you have, and I do, I'll be very honest, I've got so much animosity to the point of being downright almost hatred for what this administration did. I said for a long time, before I even mentioned it on the radio, that bringing the patients here away from where the virus actually was activated over in Africa, they would have been better off, I think, to isolate, concentrate, and have the demise of the virus over there in certain settings than they were by bringing it here to this country and opening up a Pandora's box that they don't know what's going to happen.
I completely agree, and I think that Governor Bobby Jindal is right, and, you know, that halt all air flights. Halt all international air flights to countries where you know, this is a major problem, and make sure that we're not bringing any more of these people who are infected back stateside.
One of the worst places to be, Gina, is on an airliner. They've got you crammed in there like sardines. Nobody has flown probably more than I have over the last 25 years, and absolutely the air quality is diminished to zero as far as being healthy. How in the world could they expect not to have that disease circulate on an airplane?
Well, of course it's going to circulate on an airplane, and, you know, they don't really go through and disinfect the entire plane.
That's right.
Every flight. They just don't do it. It might get disinfected, maybe once a week?
There you go.
If that. You've got 2 phone calls.
All right, caller number 1, quickly, go ahead.
You were asking a couple of minutes ago whether Obama was stupid, or what was the other one?
Well, I just said that I think Obama, I'm trying to remember what I said as far as verbiage is concerned, but I absolutely don't think he's been honest with the American public, and I think he's very ego-centered, and I think he's an ideologue that's so narcissistic that he'll never admit he made a mistake.
Well, you were asking he was one or the other, and I think he's both.
Could very well be. Dal, he could very well be. I do not trust the man. I do not like the man. Thank you.
Neither do I.
God bless you, sir. Thank you. Caller number 2, you're on the air. Thanks.
Yeah, Zeb, this sounds far-fetched, but there's a gentleman, I think his name is Hodges, who claims that the Ebola virus has a patent, and that it is truly a man-made thing intentionally. Until there's, you know, and he said this is the way, this is going to be one of the things that creates the chaos in America that will enable Obama to institute martial law. I know this is all crazy, it's far-fetched stuff, but this is what...
No, wait a minute. No, don't say that as a precursor to wrapping it up. No, it's not crazy. No, it's not far-fetched. We need to look at all options right now, because let's just say that in your construction business, you have something ordered in from overseas. You cut yourself on it, and you develop a virus. Well, maybe somebody had sneezed on the wood, or other bodily fluids, spittle, or whatever. I mean, Randy, it's not far-fetched anymore. It's not the Twilight Zone. It's coming true.
Well, that's exactly... I mean, this guy has a whole scenario that he, has painted about how all this is intentional. And of course, the AIDS virus has a patent, too. And so... all these things are intentional to bring, I mean, if you really want to think about it, and I know you got to go, there's people on this earth who really do believe that in order for them to survive here in a long-term way, they have to get rid of a lot of people on this earth.
That's right.
A lot of them.
That's unfortunately true. Randy, you're always welcome with your thoughts. Thank you very much. God bless. Nothing's outrageous anymore. Nothing is outrageous anymore after I had that story about the transgenderism in Minnesota. Nothing is outrageous anymore. Caller, I got 30 seconds. Fast. Go.
Insecure people do what Barack Obama does, and that's his problem. He's very insecure.
Very well stated. Tony, God bless you, man. Thanks so much.
You're welcome.
You
Bye.
bet. God bless. Tomorrow on the program, Stephen Moore is going to be talking about the economy. Randy Givens from Austin, Texas. We haven't had him on for a long time. Doug Johnson and Brian Fairchild, former CIA operative. Don't miss it. All of that tomorrow at 8:06, right here on Zeb at the Ranch. And all I can say is the way things were are the way things ought to be. God bless you and your family. We'll see you tomorrow morning at 8:06.